The ones that are English, notice that there's categories and just quotations, okay? Because these are Commonplace books. I just want you to look at them because you've never seen these before, okay? So I couldn't bring a whole bunch of 1,600 books, like 500-year-old books here. Guys, for me to get your steps in today. That's just because you may have to be fair, I do see you before. So, what would you go in rack? Sorry, did she honestly expect us to do this? Instead of saying, look how blurry it is. I don't even know if it is English, because like, English. Okay, sometimes I slur a little. Thanks. So, I'm going to pass around now pages that have orange writing. These are the pages where I've translated an entry or two. I want you to make sure that you see one of these. There's not enough for everybody, so you got to pass them around. Okay? And then I want you to briefly revisit this question. Why did these people keep these books? And why did I want you to keep these books? Revisit the question. See if you can remember. Okay? And make sure you get to see an orange one. One of my particular favorites is the one on writing, where it says, if your ink goes dry, moisten it with your own tears and write again. It's like amazing stuff. Amazing stuff in there.
Longing than when I am bound to seek it, an ill-favored creature has pearls in a gun spoon.
Yes. So the idea here is that when you're looking for beauty and you find a beautiful face, now y'all, you know how this goes. You find a beautiful face and it turns out the person is a total jerk. It's like finding pearls in a dunghill. Right? Okay, what else we got? Vanessa.
Both a lover and a woman was deceived by your words.
A little louder.
Both a lover and a woman was deceived by your words.
Yes. Both a lover and a woman, I was deceived by your words. So that comes from a myth about women and the way they are so treacherous. What else? Who's got some other ones?
Cameron does.
Yeah, Cameron does.
I'll destroy your life.
Okay, it says beauty is a guard.
Sufficient.
Oh, beauty is a guard sufficient.
like a
It is a
key.
sufficient guard. Like beauty protects you.
And beauty is a guided nothing.
Yeah, some of these, it was not totally clear to me what they were saying, so I could make out part of it. So let's say you're going to get on the AP exam a quotation, and they're going to say agree or disagree.
What?
Good luck, right? Unless you have some store of thoughts already conceived. So this person, if they were taking the AP exam and they got a quotation that says beauty is truth and truth beauty, do you agree or disagree? Could start off by saying, oh, I remember this person talking about how beauty protects us. And they could go somewhere, right? So what is the point of these books? Let's just revisit this. What's the point of these?
It seems like there's like a lot of feelings written down, like thoughts. It's probably like some sort of diary, like writing thing.
Yeah, it definitely is where you get to write down things that attract you personally, right? Yeah, Kayla.
I feel like you could really learn about yourself and what you really think about or like.
Yes. By seeing what you copy down, you actually start to see how you feel about things.
Yeah.
Excellent. Carlos.
Also, like you're saying, like, well, since they were like in categories, like somewhat like in ABC order, then it might be like people like they think something, they write it down so they can use it later in writing.
Yes.
So it's like a
Inventio.
reference, like an encyclopedia that you make.
Exactly. Remember that in Cicero's canons of writing, he says we have to invent, but he doesn't mean pull from nowhere. He means find. It already exists in the world. The good idea is out there. Find it. Use it in your writing. So this is where you gather up stuff you can use. All right, I'm going to call this lady. Full disclosure, she sort of hasn't really told me how this is working. But she is a wonderful lady. And so we're just going to roll with it.
It's like a FaceTime thing?
Yeah, I think so. And she's going to show you some more stuff. She's going to call us from the folder. So she's got some rare books that can't go elsewhere. You could never see unless you go down there and get permission to see them. So I think it'll be pretty cool. But I just ask your patience ahead of time in case it's a total disaster. Just roll with it. This is how it's done, okay? Which I know you will do because you're all lovely. All right.
Hey Zach, you got the
Can you
pass?
see us?
Yep, I can see it.
Yay! All right, guys, I would like you to say hello to the fantastic Heather Wolf from the Folger Shakespeare Library.
Nice to meet you.
All right. So, Heather, they're all yours, but tell me what you need as we go along. And we'll make it happen.
Okay. Okay, great. So I'm document camera. Which is the document camera? Not.
Yeah, mine is working.
Yeah. So, oh, I need to see it too, though.
Okay.
Okay, we're just getting set up over here too. This is Matt who's helping me.
Hi Matt.
Okay, all right. So I have my screen set up. Let me go to you now. So basically, I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about Commonplace books in the collection at the Folger. Have any of you been to the Folger Shakespeare Library before?
Not yet.
The field trip?
In the spring.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we have the world's largest collection of material relating to Shakespeare, but we also have this massive collection of material relating to the period of the 16th and 17th century in Europe. And so I'm the curator of manuscripts, and we have about 60,000 manuscripts from this period, including a number of Commonplace books. So I hear that you have been creating your own Commonplace books this year for this class. Do you have them with you now?
Yes.
Yeah, they're
Can you hold them up so I can see what they look like?
Yes. It's a little dark, so we'll see. This is the best group of high schoolers you will ever meet.
She saw me!
My fingers now.
So we're going to look at some a few Commonplace books that are 300 or 400 years older than the Commonplace books that you are working on right now. But I think you'll find they're organized probably in a very similar way. So this was a tradition that was taught to students when they were in grammar, so even much younger than you. Students were taught to bring a blank book to school, and this is in Shakespeare's lifetime. And all students learned Latin back then, and so they were taught about imitation and invention, which were two big ideas in the Renaissance. And they were supposed to read carefully and then take extracts from their readings and organize them into their blank books. And there are a number of different strategies for doing this, as you probably know. And one of them was to put things in alphabetical order. But alphabetical order was kind of a funny thing in that period, because sometimes people only alphabetized by the first letter, but then they didn't sub-alphabetize. And so often you'll get a heading, for under the letter A, and it will include ambition. And then after that, it'll put anger, and then ambition, and then absolution. So it's not like the perfect finding aid for locating your material, but generally you could get the things by letter. But other people would organize things by theme, and so they would put just these bigger ideas. And sometimes the Commonplace books would be arranged in advance with the themes that they were going to use. So that way they could go through their reading material, and as they came across certain themes that were important to them, they could pluck out of the printed book that passage and put it into their Commonplace book under the heading. And for politics, they would have Commonplace books. Poetry, you could Commonplace from drama. This one you see R and then superscript S, it looks like. Here you see R superscript 3. And so what you have to do in his book is go to the index, and let me see if I can get us there. Yeah, here, this is his index. And so R3 would go to the R part of his index. If it's down here, U, R. And you would see that R3 is what? What does this say?
So our contract is a little washed out, Heather.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is The Tragedy of Richard III by Shakespeare.
Good choice, John Evans.
R3. Okay, so if it's too washed out, I won't go into that detail. But let me show you some other examples that I have brought in.
And I can pull the Luna file too if it's
Okay.
from the Evans or the Deering, I can probably pull it on this end too.
Okay, well, I'll just show you some examples now. So we're going to go to the document camera. This is, can you see this little book that I'm showing you right here?
So I think you still, let's see, that's on Max.
Yep.
Ah, yay, look at this.
Okay, so here is a book which has a parchment binding on it, which is actually an old manuscript. So they would recycle sometimes old manuscripts because they're made out of animal skin, and it was a very sturdy cover. And then this is the book itself, which has lots of the scribbles on the first page. So here there's a very tidy little index, but it's at the beginning with all of these themes. And this is a traditional commonplace book in that it's in Latin. And if you then turn, you can see the headings are at the top. And then they pulled out the extracts. And then in the left-hand column, he's left a place where the sources can be added. And these are mostly classical sources that he's choosing from. So here you have accusatio and abusio over here, and then these quotations from classical sources. Ambitio for ambition. Animus, and then antiquitas. So he made this heading, but he never found anything that actually would fit under that heading. And sometimes teachers would give you the headings in advance, and sometimes you would develop them on your own. Sure. Okay. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So that is one example of a commonplace book. Now I'm going to, and so this is from the late 16th century or so. Now I'm going to jump ahead 150 years, and some of you may have heard of the author James Boswell. He was Samuel Johnson's friend, and he made a commonplace book when he was a child. And I think this one is so funny. Here you can you see this inscription right here?
Yes.
It says, "This was my father's commonplace book at a very early period of his life, circa 1750. And if you go inside, you can see his organization system. So he's wanting to make it alphabetical, but then alphabetical within each letter as well. A, E, I, O, U. And then at the very beginning of this, he explained his philosophy of commonplacing. So he says, if I would put anything in my commonplace book, I find out a head to which I may refer it. Each head ought to be some important and essential word to the matter in hand. And in that regard is to be had to the first letter and the vowel that follows it, for upon these two depend the whole use of the preceding index. And then he goes on to explain this even further. And like many commonplace books in our collection, James Boswell started it. So Death and Immortality was his first entry. And then he got to Prodigies. And this is probably why we acquired it, because he cites Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. We get Traveling. And then it peters out.
And I got like electronic stuff. It's like real instruments and stuff like that. I was her song, and she thought it was two different people because she can manipulate her voice, and she does so many different kinds of styles.
I'm done with